In the land of Russia, where Vladimir Putin rules with absolute authority, a young entrepreneur found himself in a precarious position. At the age of 22, having built Russia's biggest social network, Pavel Durov found himself at the helm of a platform that had become a bastion for freedom of speech for the Russian youth, where users shared dissenting opinions about the Russian government and questioned the leadership of the nation. The Russian authorities sent several requests to Pavel Durov to censor a social networking platform, but he rejected all of their requests. After several months of repeatedly rejecting the demands of the Kremlin, Pavel Durov woke up one morning to the sight of Russia's notoriously feared police. This is the story of how a tech entrepreneur dared to defy one of the most powerful leaders in the world. Pavel Durov was born on October 10, 1984, in Leningrad, now known as St. Petersburg. As a teenager, Pavel was fascinated by computers and programming. The interest was more than a hobby. It was a passion that drove him to spend countless hours learning and experimenting with code. After graduating high school, Pavel enrolled at the St. Petersburg State University to study philology. Despite his chosen field of study, it was the emerging digital world that truly captivated him. He was particularly inspired by the rapid growth of social networking sites in the West, such as Facebook, which is becoming increasingly popular among college students in the United States. Inspired by the success of Facebook, Pavel saw an opportunity to create something similar in Russia. Alongside his brother Nikolai, Pavel began working on VKontakte, which means in contact in Russian. VKontakte, or VK for short, was officially launched in October 2006. VK was tailored specifically for the Russian market, with a strong focus on the needs and preferences of Russian users. The timing for the launch of VK was perfect. Russia's internet penetration was growing, and there was a burgeoning middle class eager to connect to each other in the digital space. VK's popularity skyrocketed, and within a few years, it became the most visited site in Russia. By 2012, VK had amassed over 100 million users, making it one of the largest social networks in the world. VK's success was driven by several key factors. Firstly, Pavel's emphasis on user experience and engagement made the platform highly attractive to young people. The second reason for its success was that VK was very good at copying Facebook. The site looked nearly identical to Facebook. It was so blatant that Mark Zuckerberg complained about how Facebook would launch a feature and VK would have the same feature up and running 10 minutes later. Thirdly, VK provided a level of openness and freedom that was rare in Russian media, breaking free from the carefully curated propaganda displayed on TVs and newspapers. The freedom of expression VK offered made Pavel somewhat of a cult hero among the Russian youth, being hailed as a hero, breaking them free from the propaganda sphere of Russia. Pavel played into his newfound fame and developed quite a big ego that led him to do stupid things like causing a stampede at the front of the VK headquarters after he started throwing banknotes onto the street from his office window, causing people to fight over the money as it fell. But the media backlash that followed the stampede incident would be no match for the trouble he was about to face. In 2011 and 2012, VKontakte played a significant role in facilitating communication and organization among protesters during the mass demonstration against alleged electoral fraud in Russia. The government's response to the protests was swift and severe. Law enforcement agencies cracked down on demonstrations, and the authorities began to scrutinize VK's operations more closely. The Russian government demanded that VK remove opposition groups and hand over user data, citing concerns about national security and public order. These demands put Durov in a difficult position, as complying with the government's request would undermine the principles of free expression and privacy that VK was built upon, so Durov refused to comply. In April 2013, the situation reached a critical point when masked police officers arrived at VK's headquarters in St. Petersburg. Officially, they were investigating a hit-and-run incident involving a company vehicle, but the timing and nature of the raid suggested a more sinister motive. It was clear that the government was sending a message. Pavel, however, was resolute in his commitment to freedom of speech. He refused to comply with the government's demands, a bold stance that put him directly at odds with one of the world's most powerful leaders. However, the relentless harassment and threats took their toll. In January 2014, Pavel announced he was selling his 12% stake in VK for $300 million. He was practically forced to sell his stake to Ivan Tavrin, a known ally of Vladimir Putin. This effectively relinquished his control of the site, as a huge part of the rest of the company was owned by Alisher Usmanov, a Russian oligarch and a known ally of Putin. Some of you may be wondering, wouldn't it have been easier for the Russian government to simply ban VK and block Russian internet users from using it, similar to what China does to foreign tech companies with its Great Firewall? Firstly, Russia is not China, and the Great Firewall is a magnificent feat that many thought was impossible and took decades to make. But secondly, and more importantly, Vladimir Putin is a great strategist. He knew that Russia didn't have a firewall like that of China, and simultaneously understood that if you blocked VK, a new social network would spring up to replace it, which could have been bad, especially if that social network was created in the country of a foreign adversary like Facebook. VK was perfect. It dominated the Russian-speaking world, so it would only make sense to take full control of it and use it to the benefit of the Kremlin. Thus, after continued pressure, Pavel Durov finally caved in. In April 2014, he was dismissed from his position as CEO. Following his departure from VK, Pavel faced an uncertain future. He left Russia, fearing for his safety. However, in 2013, while still grappling with the pressures from the Kremlin, Pavel and his brother Nikolai began working on a new project, Telegram. Telegram was conceived as a messaging app focused on security and privacy in an era where digital surveillance was becoming increasingly pervasive. Telegram officially launched in August 2013, and it quickly gained a reputation for its robust encryption and commitment to user security. Telegram's success was immediate. Users flocked to the platform, attracted by its promise of secure and private communication. By 2020, Telegram had over 500 million active users worldwide. The app became particularly popular among activists, journalists, and anyone seeking a secure communication platform. Ironically, Russian politicians are known to use Telegram frequently because of its privacy.